Today we are going to study A Thing of Beauty, and it is written by John Keats. You all must have heard the name of this poet, John Keats. Now let's discuss about the poet first. About the poet, about John Keats. Of all the great poets of the early 19th century, John Keats, he was born in 1795 and he died in 1821. He was the last to be born and the first to die. He was born in 1795 in the city of London to a poor stable keeper. You know who is a stable keeper? One who takes care of stable, that is horse stable. He was brought up amid surroundings and influences by no means calculated to awaken poetic genius. He did not have any background of poetry or that, even though he showed his interest in poetry. Rendered an orphan at the tender age of 15, he was apprenticed as a surgeon by his guardian, Mr. Abbey. However, who was his guardian? Mr. Abbey. However, as soon as he was of age, he abandoned the medical profession to devote his life to literature, as he realized that poetry was his true vocation. He received much encouragement and inspiration from his friends, Leigh Hunt, Haydon, etc., and published his first volume of his poems in 1871. So, his first volume of poems was published in the year 1817. Now, braving his ill health, his financial constraints and the hostile criticism he received for his second volume, he continued undeterred, giving his best creations. The Great Odes is the last phase of his life. The Great Odes is the last phase of his life. Keats breathed his last in February 1821 at the age of 26. Keats is rated among the greatest poets of England. Now, let's discuss about the poem. About the poem. A Thing of Beauty is an excerpt from Keats' poem Endymion. So, it is an excerpt from Keats' poem Endymion, a poetic romance. One of his earliest creations, which appeared in the volume of poems published in 1818, and it was published in 1818. The poem is based on the classical Greek myth of the love of the moon goddess Cynthia for a young shepherd prince Endymion. Now, according to this classic story, Cynthia descended from heaven to kiss her beloved Endymion, sleeping in everlasting youth on the top of the Mount Latmos in Caria. Now, the enchanted youth resolved to seek her out and so wandered away through the forest down under the sea. Now the poem Endymion, as Keats himself wrote to one of his friends, is a test of his powers of imagination and invention. This poem, we can say that this poem is a test of his powers of imagination and invention. Now, let's discuss the use of allegory. So John Keats belonged to the second generation, and allegory is a narrative fiction. It is a narrative fiction in which the agents and actions and sometimes the settling as well are contrived to make coherent sense on the literal or primary level of signification, at the same time to signify a second correlated order of agents, concepts and events. So the story of Endymion has been interpreted as an allegory of the quest of the human soul for ideal beauty. It is the quest of a human soul for ideal beauty. Endymion stands for the poet as man, Cynthia for ideal beauty, the moon for the manifestations of that beauty in nature. Now, Keats' love for the beauty. So John Keats belonged to the second generation of romantic poets. Let's discuss this point. Keats' love for beauty. So Keats belonged to second generation of romantic poets, along with Shelley and Byron. So while Wordsworth was a worshipper of nature, Keats was a worshipper of beauty. Wordsworth was worshipper of nature and Keats was worshipper of beauty. Love of beauty is the dominant note of his poetry from the early Endymion to his last poem Hyperion, a vision. Beauty was for Keats the moving spirit of his life and art. Beauty was his religion. His imagination was excited by beauty, and he was at his best only in the presence of the perfect. Thus he asserted, beauty is truth, truth beauty, that is all. Ye know on earth and all ye need to know. Now let's discuss a summary of the poem. The excerpt which marks the beginning of Keats' longer poem Endymion voices his eternal love for beauty. It announces eternal for beauty. A beautiful object gives one joy forever, and its charm increases with the passing of the time. Beauty leaves an everlasting imprint in our minds, and it cannot be reduced to nothingness. So, the impression of beauty keeps on lurking in our minds and remains preserved in the memory as a quiet bower or in the form of sweet dreams which revive and flash upon our mind in our sleep. Now, these memories may also revive when we are quietly breathing, meditating with a healthy mind. These beautiful thoughts and memories bind us to this earth. Thus, with every passing day, on every morning we prepare a wreath of flowers which strengthens our earthly life. Despair and disappointment are the integral features of life. What he says? Despair and disappointment are the integral features of life. And so we often suffer pain and loss of hope due to the dearth of goodness and nobility in human nature. So the selfish and inhuman nature makes us gloomy and overshadow our happy thoughts, darkening our ways and making them unpleasant and unhealthy. Man strives and struggles, searching a way out of his darkness and gloom. And in spite of experiencing sadness and remorse, he is able to find his happiness in some form of beauty, which drives away the sadness from the dark and gloomy self. All the objects of beauty, the sun, the moon, the trees, whether young or old, cast an enchanting spell and sprout as a shady boon ever for the simple sheep. The beauty of the daffodils growing in pastures and meadows and the clear waters on the rivers give a cooling and pleasant surprise experience in contrast with the warmth and unpleasantness of the hot season. The poet sees the magical spell of beauty and on all objects of nature, and thus basks in the mystifying beauty of the thick forest undergrowth. The blossoming of beauty is also to be experienced in the grandeur of the death of those mighty and powerful kings and knights who made supreme sacrifices and died noble deaths. The tales of their spectacular and grand death which we have heard or read are like a perennial fountain from where we draw the elixir of life. Being a great source of inspiration, they pour forth into us and the immortal drink received from the brink of heavens above. Now, let's discuss the theme of this poem. The theme of the poem rests in opening line of the poem. The beautiful object is treasured in our mind because it provides us eternal and everlasting beauty, everlasting joy. What beauty gives us? Beauty gives us everlasting joy. This happens never fades into nothingness but multiples manifold wherever it flashes on our mind screen. So there is a saying that a thing of beauty is a joy forever. So you all remember this saying, this line. And finally, let's discuss the rhyme scheme of the poem. Keats casts a lyrical spell with a perfect rhyme scheme. So, Keats casts a lyrical spell with a perfect rhyme scheme, that is A B B C C. This is the rhyme scheme of the poem. Now you have to answer the questions on the basis of reading of the chapter, reading of the poem. Question number 1. How is a thing of beauty a joy forever? So you can write it like this, that John Keats was a great worshipper of beauty. He saw beauty as a perennial source of joy and happiness. So the beauty leaves an indelible imprint on our mind and onlooker and provides eternal happiness whenever the thought of sight flashes upon the inward eye. So like this you can answer this. And second question is, what philosophy of life is highlighted in the poem? So like this you can answer these two questions. So how can you answer second question, that Keats worship beauty both as its sensuous and spiritual level, and all his poetry reveals a yearning for that lofty loveliness which is real and true, and his passion for beauty however did not keep him untouched with the pain and suffering of life he saw as a central fact of life. Like this you can answer these two questions. I hope you understand it. I hope you understood the chapter. Now this is the end of the chapter. Thank you.